And if I can ask John Hutton to come to the table. John, welcome. If I could, I will formally move the recommendation.
Happy to second, Mr. Chair.
It's been seconded by Councillor Wayne Walker. And could I ask on treaty settlements to talk to the paper?
Kia ora koutou. This paper's looking for support for a submission to be put to the Māori Affairs Committee on the Ngāti Tamaoho Claims Settlement Bill. The submission supports the bill. It acknowledges the importance of the settlement for Ngāti Tamaoho and the people of Auckland. The submission briefly covers the matters that have involved directly Auckland Council. They're not large matters, but they're worth recording for the committee. And the submission also endorses a technical change that we understand Parliamentary Council Office will be putting in the bill, and it's a change to make an adjustment to be clear as to how Auckland Council's to administer a site under the Reserves Act. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I have Kim Bellingham here in case there are any technical questions on the Reserves Act.
Kim, you've been here all day. This could be your moment. And is there anything you wish to add, or would you simply like to respond to questions?
It's unusual for the treaty matter to be less controversial, but no, I have nothing to add. Yeah.
Thank you, Kim, and thank you both for your patience today. Are there any questions? Are there any comments?
Sorry,
a comment, Councillor Darby.
Thank you, Chair. Are we expected on this bill, I think on other bills, we have made presentation, or is this just not a controversial one for us?
This one's not controversial. We didn't present with the the Te Kaurawa Maki bill, but we did on the recent Point England bill, so there's no obligation to present. But the fact we're putting in the submission, saying our piece and then saying we don't need to appear is a strong sign to the committee that all is good.
Yeah.
Okay, all good, thank you.
Thank you. If there's no further comment, sorry, Councillor
Just
Linda
quickly,
Cooper.
questions. So, in terms of us managing the reserve, what are the there's never anything that says financial implications. What's the financial implications for us, or is it going to be just business as usual, looking after what we were looking after before on behalf of the Crown?
So the reserve in particular is Hunua Falls. It's one that we already administer on behalf of the Crown. Okay. There may be some additional cost in planning to bring in an iwi point of view there, but in terms of the nuts and bolts,
it's the same. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If there's no further questions or comment, I'll put the recommendation. If I get somebody to move that, I've moved it. If we seconder, Councillor Collins. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
To the contrary, no, carried. Item number 14, which I understand from the mover, the speaker to it, is going to take an hour and a half, is the Deputy Mayor's report on his trip to Suzhou, Shanghai and Singapore.
Happy to move, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Get it out
We
of the
haven't
way.
even heard it.
I think it is important that
What have you achieved for
while everybody is
Auckland
at the point where they're feeling a little tired at the end of a long session, that we hear Councillor Cashmore's report.
I'm interested.
Yep, and I am too. So,
Me too.
So, Councillor Cashmore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be as brief and quick as possible. It's been a long day, folks. It seems an age ago that Kairu and I went to Shanghai, Suzhou and Singapore. I'd like to express my thanks to Kairu and Noella at the team for the work that they did in preparation and in helping me get through this. It was a really busy program and we achieved quite a bit. That's the basic overview. It's also my full written report's been circulated out to council. It's got the whole itinerary and a lot more detail than what I'll be giving right now. The Shanghai The investment forum was for Panuku, and this was about the One Belt, One Road initiative. We had 150 people attend. Around 50 of those, I'd say, came down from Beijing, especially for it. And this is about Panuku helping to attract more investors to do some of the work that they're doing in the city. And I must admit, the reception was amazingly positive and went very, very well. And we also had a Fuwa presentation, and importance, you all know about Fuwa and the hotel and the importance of that relationship with council. And they're interested in continuing and indeed growing that work. The Mayor's Forum in Suzhou was interesting. I didn't know what to expect when I went there, but it was fascinating to meet the mayors from elsewhere around the world. And a couple of highlights. The Mayor of Antwerp, a chap called Bart, who had a propensity to wear orange suits, has actually shifted his port. And we talked about that at length. He's got an invitation to our Mayor to visit him in Antwerp to talk through the issues. And they faced some serious issues about when they went to shift their port. They have a similar regulatory regime to us. Suzhou itself is an amazing place. It's an ancient city. You know, they talk about it being Venice of the East. Well, actually, Venice should be the other way around, because it was there 2,000 years before Venice. There's a canal that connects Beijing and Suzhou that's 2,000 years old. Some of the artefacts in the museum were 4,500 years old, and beautiful ceramic china. Used to be a semi-industrial town, worked with Singapore and Lee Kuan Yew. They've turned it into a modern city, a service city, a beautiful city. And you could not help but compliment them on the work that they had achieved and done. We had various mayoral forums and responses. That's actually the partnership stuff. And Suzhou, we've spoken through that. It's quite an amazing town, an old town, but also a new town. The mayor's forums was about how you grow, with taking your environment, your culture with you, and retaining the town's integrity, but also having enabling and youthful conducts. And there were many different cases of how they'd achieved this. I spoke briefly to the delegates around the resilience after our March floods we had here, and how we had with Sharon Stewart's Civil Defence Emergency Management Program and our new program, and how that was working for us, some of the lessons we'd learnt and where we wanted to go from here. Some of the interesting facts that we learnt and we think our heavenly stars. Athens, people under 25, 45% unemployed. Barcelona, under 25s, 30% unemployed. So some of those cities are facing challenges that we don't even comprehend as yet. And there's Bart and the Deputy Mayor of Greece. This was the promotion we did about talking about a resilient Auckland. The tour of Suzhou was followed heavily by the media from China about what we thought and our impressions. Obviously, they were very keen to hear our positive thoughts, because it was quite a beautiful place. They even washed the streets every day with recycled water.
Sounds like fun.
This was the Lee Kuan Yew Forum, and you know that Auckland got highly commended. Hi, Koro. Start with that, Jacoba, sorry. Highly commended last time round. This is an international award where cities who are going through change can apply. And it's something we applied to last term. We've done very well, and something we can do further work on if we wish to, because if once we've finished the CRL, we'd probably have a really good chance of taking this out. And I know Wayne was following some of the work this Lee Kuan Yew City Awards has been going through. We all know the great Mayor of Fukuoka, Takashima. He was just here last week?
Yep.
Last week?
Last week.
The opening of the gardens. Really nice guy. And he was just really keen to come here, sign the MOU with the Mayor and open the gardens, which, like I say, happened last week. Singapore was looking at the green garden trails, and you know, all of you know about the gardens by the bay and the work that's been done. The Land Transport Authority, the ports, and the McKinsey Global Partnerships. Many of you, but you've been to Singapore. I was staggered by this development. I haven't been to Singapore for about 12 years, but they've done great work with this land. It's a repurposing of what was industrial land and port land. Signing agreements. This is about talking with the ports guys and about how they're going about shifting their ports. They're doing it over a 20-year period. They've taken 15 years to get to the stage of being willing to shift it, and over 4 or 5 different stages. And their emphasis to us was, take your time. There's only 3 experts in the world who can find the best place for a new port. Use those, take the advice, and be very thorough in the planning of your infrastructure around that. I could go on at great length because it was a fascinating discussion. I'm not saying anything. That's a visitor's book.
Just as well.
He just sold Ports of
Just sold
Auckland.
Put us the congestion pricing contract.
And the other next one, of course, was the another of Kathy's favourite topics was about the congestion charging network that Singapore's got. So those who have been there will know how Singapore goes about it with their gantry systems. They've built it over time. So they went from a straightforward gantry that was a straight charge to a gantry that now has a smart charging system. It varies throughout the day. And they're talking about going to the GPS system. So a global positioning system, it's a little box in your dash. It's not simple. They've spent $500 million US on it and for 1 million cars, and that's not landed yet. The security problems are very real. Motorbikes are really problematic because of the battery size.
Sounds like a train.
Cars with sharp windscreens or very slopey windscreens are problematic because they reflect. Temperature variations are problematic. So they are going to be trying to land stage 1 of this in 2020 with final delivery in subsequent years. They certainly have put a lot of time and effort into it, and the more we probed them with questions, the feeling I was getting from them was that we're not there yet, and we're not finding it as easy as we perhaps thought it would be.
This is rivet.
And that was, the last part was the McKinsey and Partners engineers report. So it's a 3-day summit for engineers around the world. What I found fascinating about that was they were looking at the opportunities. So the One Belt, One Road people were there, the Swiss were there, the American banks were there. They were saying they have $750 billion in US of funds they're trying to find work for.
Oh.
So there's no shortage of worldwide money, there's a shortage of bankable projects. So they were looking for new models that they can deliver infrastructure by. So whether that's the SPV that we've taken up recently, or dedicated projects, or someone delivers a whole project and they run it for 49 years and give it back to you. There's a whole different methodologies about how they're doing it. The 3D printing, I recommend you Google up Wind Sun Shanghai and have a look at the work that they do. It's incredible. Using recycled steel and concrete to build new cities. Very fast, 70% of the weight of a conventional building and 60% cheaper. The last thing was the capacity for using big data to deliver projects at scale, but also considerably cheaper. And amalgamating up all that data into precincts and standardising across industry. So all in all, the trip was one learning curve. It was fast, it was furious. Cotter was a good friend, a good mentor, kept me on the straight and narrow, got me to places on time, because sometimes your head was swimming. But it was a educational experience, and it stood me in good stead of more recent times. So happy to take any questions, and Cotter probably got some backup comments to help me out.
Right, let's see. I've got a question from Councillor Simpson, already registered.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you, Deputy Mayor. Sounds like a fantastic trip. If you had to summarise the 3 top points that would benefit Auckland ratepayers, what would they be as a result of your trip?
Definitely the financing, the opportunities around international money, standing alongside some of our own and some of the government to deliver projects at scale and over a longer time period. So a lot of the successful outcomes were when they had 25 years of guaranteed infrastructure build. The big companies would stand up beside the countries or the cities and do that over a prolonged period of time, considerably cheaper. The 3D printing was amazing, and the other thing would be Shuzo and their ability to do economic uplift, building uplift, and great environmental outcomes at the same time. And they could achieve that and have achieved it very, very well.
Councillor Hills.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and thank you, Koro, for putting up with the Deputy Mayor for... I have the interesting about the way cars are dropping because they charge so much for them, and that most of your photos looked like there was no one around on all the roads. So I think there's some lessons to be learned there. You've got some comments about Auckland's reputation just generally, but what was the kind of feeling, apart from obviously some people probably been briefed on Auckland before they met you, but what was the sort of feeling? We have a sort of maybe an inflated ego over what people perceive us overseas, but what was your kind of feeling about how people felt about Auckland or knew about Auckland in general?
So in all 3 cities, Auckland and New Zealand was held in very, very high regard. It was known as a quality food producer, as a beautiful place to visit, and in the commercial and banking sector, it was known as a safe place of good governance. So that stands us in good stead.
Thank you. Councillor Holtz.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I don't know if you're ready for this to be moved yet, but I'm happy to move that we thank our Deputy Mayor. And I just,
Seconded.
I guess this is a bit of a personal me to Bill, I'd like to acknowledge our Deputy Mayor for doing this on our behalf with such good heart and dignity and such a commitment to the hard work that these trips involve. I think there's an awful lot of nonsense in the media about trips overseas, and I can't even remember what the word is that they use, but you know, there's a junket. For anyone who's travelled to these places, you are worked from 7 in the morning until midnight, and it is exhausting, and it's hard to keep your equilibrium and your good humour, and I know, Bill, that you will have done that in spades. And I guess, Mr Mayor, the thing that we benefit from the Deputy Mayor's commitment to this job and this trip is that when we have the return visits, there's a known face, there's a known personality, and there's a known connection, and in these cases that's exactly what counts. And Bill, I can't think of a better person to have gone and done it, so thank you.
Thank you, Penny.
Thank you very much, Councillor Holtz. And final question, Councillor Filipaina.
Comment, if that's okay.
Comment? That's
Yep.
no problem.
Cool bananas. Look, I've read the report and it's got down the learnings from the trip. What I'm also interested is anything tangible that may be coming back to Auckland Council or Tāmaki Makaurau as a result. So, ngā mihi ki a koe koro. So, I don't know whether you or the Deputy Mayor, but I mean, I agree with what Councillor Holtz has said, but I mean, again, with most of the trips we have, it's just something that may be coming back. If it's not, it's just about learning's fine. But if there's anything that possibly tangible that comes to Tāmaki Makaurau, that'd be even better being reported.
Kia ora koutou, councillors. I'm more than happy just to briefly comment since I think you're going to move the motion. But I think something tangible is something that you really can't see,
Yep.
which is it's the tapping into thought leadership. I mean, our city has aspirations to be a global city, but the issues and challenges that we have are not exceptional to Auckland. Other cities around the world are facing similar challenges, and we can learn lessons from them about what we can do or how we can approach some of the issues that we need to deal with in relation to affordable housing, and in relation to transport, in relation to our ageing infrastructure. So that is a meaningful takeaway from tapping into this thought leadership or these city-led networks, is understand how other cities around the world that we aspire to be and want to be like, how they tackle these issues, what are they doing now, how are they funding them, and are there any lessons for us that we can learn that we can bring back here and apply to the circumstances of Auckland.
Thank you. And some concrete things out of Fuwa is that not only are they building the hotel that you're seeing going up the Park Hyatt, which will be the most expensive hotel in Auckland, but they've just signed an agreement to run an Orient Express train in New Zealand from Auckland all the way down to the south, buying up some of the old locomotives. So something to look out for.
So
Big
Chair,
investment by them.
Yeah, so Chair, what you've just said is exactly later on down the track. Would be good to say, hey, look, as a result of this trip.
I can't say that it's all the result of the trip, but it's building the relationship is important to that.
I understand what Koro said, but I mean, what you've just mentioned is something that may come out of this trip, that may be tangible and physical. And I think that is what needs to be reported, because then it'll at least stop the people that end up saying it's only a junket and everything else. So,
for the Chinese in particular, Guangxi relationships are critically important. So when you go on a trip like this and you make those contacts and you spend time with people, you build the relationship before you do business. That's how they do it in China. So it's certainly worthwhile. Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we receive the report, and thank Bill for it. Bill's available to provide other material on anything specific, because I see he's got a lot of notes there. But it's been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. Carried. We come to item 15 on the agenda, the summary of government body information memos and briefing.
I'd like to move that.
It's somebody's moved.
Yep.
Moved Councillor Simpson, seconded Councillor Casey. All those in favour, please say aye. To the contrary, no. Carried. Item number 16, a noting report, noting the resignation of Councillor Lee as chairperson and member of the Strategic Procurement Committee, Councillor Bill Cashmore as chairperson of the committee, and that the terms of reference will reflect that.
I'll move.
It's been moved and it's
I'll
been
second.
seconded. All those in favour, please say aye.
Wait. Just
You want to-
just a question.
Yep.
I wonder why Councillor Lee's letter of resignation hadn't been included as an attachment on this item.
I think he circulated it to all
To all of
members,
us.
if I recall rightly.
But I think it should, that's not the point. It should be form part of this, surely it should be part of this report, which is then on the record.
I'll talk to officials about the normal procedure in that regard. Okay, it's been moved, seconded. All those in favour say aye. To the contrary, no. Carried. I declare the meeting closed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.